Oh yeah, that's how much issue.
Okay, so hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to this class. And as it is mentioned in Lamrim Chenmo, we should consider this an incredible fortune and a great opportunity to be coming together to have these Lamrim classes, to have the opportunity for the teacher to explain the Lamrim and for the students to hear it. It is an incredible result. It is actually a result that comes from having previously accumulated virtuous karma. If we didn't have accumulated that virtuous karma in the past, we will not have this opportunity to come together and have Lamrim classes. And therefore, we must recognize that what we have right now, what we experience right now, is the ripening effect of that positive karma. And we must rejoice. We must rejoice because due to that previous karma, we have created the opportunity to now be able to engage in such a dharma activity. Rejoicing is very important because, as we know, by rejoicing, we easily increase our merit and we can easily purify negativity. So rejoicing again and again in the opportunity that we have, in the fortune that we have, in the merit that we have created is a very good technique. So Geshe says, I don't have to be repeating this every time. You should be always rejoicing for this class. So let's begin now with the recitation of Ganden Lagema and adjust the motivation as well through that. All right, so we have reached the point of talking about the proper way to rely on the teacher. This is a very important subject. It is often referred to and described as being the root of the path. And if you do not develop proper familiarity with this subject, then the rest of the subjects will not follow. So all the following paths, all the following realizations will not be developed in your mind. So it is stressed again and again that we must generate faith towards the Guru. But this is a particular faith. It is the faith that sees the Guru as being in reality the Buddha. And it has been explained that unless you generate this type of faith that sees the Guru as being the Buddha, you will not be able to obtain the supreme siddhi. So the question is how to generate this type of faith. The text has already explained the type of qualification and the list of qualities that we are looking in a teacher. And then it really stresses that we must generate this particular type of faith. So there are some questions that arise from that. How do we generate this particular type of faith? What is the reason why we have to generate it? And thirdly, are we actually capable of generating this type of faith? So this is how the material ahead of us is structured. So we are on page 240 on the outline 85. The reason you must regard the Guru as the Buddha. So he has explained that we must generate the faith that sees the Guru as the Buddha, and we are going to look at the reason why we have to do that. So he says, you must see him as a Buddha because you want a profit, not a loss. And you want a profit. So if you regard your Guru as a Buddha, whether he is or not, you will effortlessly achieve all your wishes in this and future lives. A great profit indeed. So the reason that he gives to establish why you need to see your Guru as this is because it says you want a profit. So it is up to us to actually examine and see whether we consider this a good enough reason. So it says, if you look at the Guru as being the Buddha, you will gain something. You will not lose. So when we talk about gain and profit, obviously it's not talking about gaining some money out of this, or getting some good clothes, or getting some free meal out of this. He's not talking about this type of profit. The profit that he's referring to is to progress along the path, to have more and more realizations, and have the final result of the state of enlightenment. If you want to simplify all this, you can say that the profit that you're seeking to achieve is freedom from suffering, is freedom from afflictive and knowledge obscurations. So if you want to achieve all those things, you can only achieve them if you look at the Guru as being a real Buddha. If you don't see the Guru as that, you're going to miss out. You will not achieve any of those things. So it says, if you want a profit, if you regard your Guru as a Buddha, whether he is or not, so it doesn't matter what the Guru is, whether he is a Buddha or he is not a Buddha. From your own side and for your own benefit, you should regard him as the Buddha, right? And if you do that, you will effortlessly achieve all your wishes in this and future lives. So obviously we're talking about quite a lot of wishes and various wishes, needs and attainments. So this is a great profit indeed. And then it says, to illustrate, an old woman had faith in a dog's tooth, thinking it was the tooth of the Buddha. The tooth then produced relic pills. So the story in brief is this. There was an old mother and his son was going away on pilgrimage to India. So she was in Tibet and the boy was going to go on pilgrimage to India. And as he left, the mother said, please, since you're going to India, when you come back, bring some blessed object. Bring something with a blessing. And the boy said, yes, of course I will. So he went into pilgrimage and completely forgot about the request of his mother. And then upon returning, actually he had reached quite close to his home and he could see his mother from afar. And only then did he remember that his mother had asked him to bring a blessed item. So he says, oh gosh, what am I going to do now? I forgot all about it. So he just looked around and he happened to see the corpse of a dog. So quickly he went there and he pulled out a tooth from the corpse of the dog and quickly wrapped it into a piece of cloth. So when he met his mother, he said, Mother, look, I've got a blessed object for you. This is the tooth of the Buddha. It's a relic from the Buddha. It's the tooth of the Buddha. And the mother was just like so overjoyed and she had so much faith that this was actually the tooth of the Buddha that she venerated that. And due to her faith and her practice in front of it, that tooth, which actually was the tooth of the dog, not the tooth of the Buddha, produced relics. So, what does this story say? The story says that if you have faith for that tooth, even though it is not the tooth of the Buddha, it will produce relics. It produced relics, isn't it? So, if you have that faith for the Guru, whether or not the Guru is the Buddha, if you have the faith that he is the Guru, the Buddha, then you will gain all this profit of all these qualities. So from the story of the woman with the tooth of the dog, the thing is that the woman received the blessings of the Buddha. Why? Because she viewed that tooth as being the actual Buddha, the tooth of the Buddha. So that illustrates, that story is very relevant to the topic that we're doing. Because the story actually says that if you see it as the Buddha, you will receive the blessings of the Buddha. If you don't see it as the Buddha, you will not receive the blessings of the Buddha. So now we come to a very sensitive and important point. Because the text says, whether or not he is the Buddha, you have to see from your side, you have to see him as the Buddha. So now the doubt might come into your mind that says, maybe he's not the Buddha. The Guru is not the Buddha in reality, but they tell me that I have to see him as the Buddha. So I have to pretend that he's the Buddha, although in reality, he's not the real Buddha. So this doubt can come into the mind because this is how it is phrased. It says, you should look at him as the Buddha. You should see him as the Buddha. So what does that mean? Is he really the Buddha and then I'm recognizing him as the Buddha? Or is he not the Buddha, but I have to pretend that he is the Buddha? I have to see him as the Buddha, although he is not. So there's a great danger that this doubt arises in your mind, that you develop this idea that somehow Lamrim here is giving me the instruction to pretend that he is the Buddha, although I know that he is not, that the instruction is to pretend. And Geshe says, I hope that as we progress with the presentation of this material, you will be able to judge for yourself and you will be able to dispel that doubt. It's a very sensitive point, and it's not good to have the misconception about the instruction of the Lamrim, but it is up to the individual to examine this point and derive the correct understanding. Okay, so we continue. It says the Blue Book of Spells. So probably this, Geshe says, I think that this is a book by Geshe Potawa, says, the Guru's blessings are not really great or small. It all depends on you. So it's not that a particular Guru is going to give you a big blessing or someone else is going to give you a small blessing and so forth. Whether or not the blessing that you receive is great or small, it depends upon you. It means it depends upon your faith. The bigger the faith that you have, the bigger the blessing that you receive. If you have no faith for the Guru, meaning you don't see him as the Buddha, then you don't get any blessings and you don't get any benefit, any profit. So it says, that is, the Guru's blessing in itself may be great or small, but the blessing you receive depends on how far you are able to see him as a Buddha, Bodhisattva, and so on. So he says, it doesn't matter what the blessing that comes from the Guru is. Here we're looking at the amount of blessing that you are receiving. Okay, if you see him as the Buddha, you will receive the blessing of the Buddha. If you see him as a Bodhisattva, you will receive the blessing of the Bodhisattva. If you see him as an ordinary being, well, you receive the blessing of an ordinary being, whatever that is. So it is what you receive, the amount of blessing you receive depends on how you see him. The bigger your faith and the more you're able to see him as a Buddha, the more blessing you will receive. Okay, then it says, whether you will achieve siddhis or not depends on whether your reverence for him is great or small. So the word reverence here is another word that indicates faith. So if you have small faith, you will achieve small things. Why? Because the blessing that you receive is small. If you have great faith, you will achieve great things, you will progress along the path, you will achieve great siddhis, and so forth. Atisha said that Tibet had no adepts because Tibetans only regarded gurus as ordinary people. So when Atisha was actually visiting in Tibet, he was asked this question: why is it the case that Tibet does not have many Mahasiddhas, great practitioners? At that time, there were not many great practitioners. Later on, afterwards, there were a great number of Mahasiddhas and adepts who reached, extraordinary levels. But at that time, there were not many. So the question was asked, why is this the case? And the answer that Atisha gave is because Tibetans only regarded gurus as ordinary people. So he says, if you regard the guru as ordinary people, you're not going to get many blessings, are you? So how do you expect to have the great practitioners, the Mahasiddhas, and so forth? You cannot progress at this level without receiving the blessings. If they regarded the gurus as the Buddhas, they would achieve the blessing of the Buddha and they would have all these great realizations. The guru may actually be a Buddha, but unless you train yourself to have faith, you will not see his qualities. Instead, you will only sustain a loss, different kinds of suffering. Okay, so the guru is actually the Buddha, but if you have not trained yourself, you will not recognize him as being the Buddha. And if you don't recognize him as the Buddha, you will not have the benefit of receiving the blessings of the Buddha. Instead, you will suffer a loss, and the loss will be different types of suffering. The Buddha had infinite numbers of qualities, but Devadatta and Upadana could see only the aura of light that extended an arm's length from his body. They could not see Buddha's other qualities. So, even though the Buddha might be there, right in front of you, and the Buddha has infinite qualities, if you cannot see him as the Buddha, if you cannot recognize his qualities, you are missing out. We have the example here of Devadatta and Upadana. Everybody else could see that the Buddha was full of qualities, but they could not see any of the qualities of the Buddha. They could only see one quality, and the quality was that they could see the aura of light extending around the body of the Buddha. That's all they could see. And because they could not see other qualities, they kept criticizing the Buddha. So obviously, they, due to not being able to see the qualities of the Buddha, they did not receive the blessings of the Buddha, so these people did not become enlightened, right? And then we have again a quotation from Geshe Potowa, who said, "If you have no respect for gurus, even relying on the Buddha himself will not help, just as with Upadana." All right, so it says, if you have no respect for the guru, meaning you have no respect and you have no faith for the guru, then it means you will not rely upon the guru. And then if the actual Buddha was there and you said, look, I have no respect for this guru, he has no qualities, I have no faith of him as being the Buddha, here's the real Buddha, I'm going to rely on the real Buddha instead, that would not benefit you. Why? Because we know that the guru is the origin and the source of all the siddhis, of all the realizations, of all the good qualities. So if you don't rely on the guru, you will not get those things. If you don't have faith and respect, if you don't recognize the qualities of the guru, if you don't see the guru as the Buddha, you will miss out on all the realizations and siddhis and good qualities. Okay, we continue with the next outline, 86. The reason you are able to see him this way. So to see him this way means to see him as really being a Buddha. He has previously said that it is necessary to see him as a Buddha. And then, of course, the question arises, yes, but am I able to do that? Can I actually see him as the Buddha? And here we will establish that, yes, we have the capability. We are able to see him as the Buddha. And it will explain the reason. So he says, not only do you need to see your guru as the Buddha, but you can, in fact, do so. It means it is not impossible. It is within your capability. You have to do it, and you can actually do it. There are two means for this. If you focus on the aspect of his good qualities, you can put an end to your lack of faith. And this faith will then overwhelm any trivial fault you may see in him. So what happens is that, first of all, you focus on the good qualities of the guru. So when you meet the guru, or when you examine the guru, you're not looking for the faults, you're looking for the good qualities. And then you focus on these good qualities. So, by focusing on these good qualities, this actually makes you not see any faults. Okay, and that puts, because you have generated faith. You look at the good qualities, you generate faith. Then through this faith, when you look at the guru, you cannot see the faults. Okay, you should use these two to make the faults you see in him bolster your faith. So even seeing faults should be used as an aid, as a support, as something that increases your faith. Think over these two. In the Vajrapani Initiation Tantra, we find, so now he's going to give a quotation from the Tantra, from the Vajrapani Initiation Tantra. Seize on your master's qualities, never seize on his faults. You will gain siddhis when you seize on his qualities. You will not get siddhis when you seize on his faults. So it's very clear instruction. So it says latch on or focus or hold onto the good qualities of the guru. Do not dwell and do not hold on to faults and mistakes. If you hold and if you focus on the good qualities, you will achieve the siddhis. If you start dwelling on the mistakes and all you see is faults and mistakes, you simply will not get those siddhis. In other words, because of our evil karmic instincts. So here he's referring to karmic imprints, and obviously they are bad, they are negative karmic imprints. So because of our evil karmic instincts, we dwell only on our guru's faults. Instead, we should dwell on his good qualities. So this is a very important point. When you look at the guru, you begin by looking at his good qualities. You do not stay and get stuck into looking at faults. This seeing of faults, this recognition of faults, or this obsession with seeing faults at the guru is due to negative karma, to the imprints of negative karma. Okay, so if you dwell on his good qualities, this will automatically stop any thoughts of seeing his faults, just as the sun outshines the moon in the sky. All right, so what is this analogy? We have the moon, and the moon is actually shining in the sky 24 hours a day. But when the sun comes out, the light of the sun is so much stronger that it outshines or it outrides the moon and the glow, the light and the glow of the moon. So during the day, we don't see the moon. The moon is there, but we don't see it because the light of the sun is so much more intense. So it says like this: even though there might be some faults there, you will not see them because you will be focusing on his good qualities, and that will reinforce your faith. So with that strong faith, seeing only his good qualities, you will not notice, you will not look at the faults. So it says, this is so, just as when you think only about your good qualities, you cannot see your own faults. And now comes into an example, and he says, it is similar to the case of any one of us who is actually focusing always on our good qualities. So we have this tendency to always be very sensitive and identify even the smallest good quality in ourselves. And by doing this, we do not notice that we have some faults and shortcomings. And if somebody else actually points out and says, for example, you know what, you're an angry person, then we really become offended. Or someone says, you know what, you're not that good looking, you're actually a bit ugly, or you look like a mouse, or, whatever. Well, if someone says something like that, points out some defect, some fault that we have, we become quite upset. Why? Because we always focus on our good qualities and we do not see our faults. Okay, so it's similar to this. You may see some small faults in your guru, but thinking of them as his skillful means of subduing his disciples should be enough to bolster your faith. So even if you notice some small mistakes in the guru, you interpret these faults and you say, okay, this is skillful means that he's using it to train a particular type of disciples. So even those small faults that you might notice, they become an aid or a support that will boost your faith even more. And then he says, moreover, at the moment we are so, we understand from this that really he does not have any faults. Okay? Anyway, then it says, moreover, at the moment we are beginners, and to us, our gurus are ordinary people. So when we are beginners, the guru appears to us to be an ordinary being, almost a beginner like ourselves, isn't it? But we have explained that whatever we perceive is due to our karmic obscurations. We have karmic obscurations that do not allow us to see the guru as he really is. When we achieve the continuous Dharma single-pointed concentration, and this is something that we achieve on the path of accumulation, we shall meet the Supreme Nirmanakaya. So we'll meet the Supreme Emanation body. So what does that mean? It means now, as beginners, we cannot meet the Supreme Emanation body. Why? Due to our karmic obscurations, right? We have all these karmic imprints that stops us from seeing that. Then it says, when on the first bodhisattva level, so now we're on the path of seeing, we have progressed even more, we shall meet Sambhogakaya, which is the enjoyment body, and so on. So what he's saying here is that as you progress along the path, then you remove more and more of those karmic obscurations, it means you are able to perceive another aspect or another body of the Buddha. So what does that say? It says that the Buddha was there from the beginning, but when you were an ordinary being or beginner, you could only perceive him as an ordinary being. And when you progress along the path, you remove all these obscurations, and the way that actually you can see that it is the Supreme Emanation body or the enjoyment body. It's not the case that when you are a beginner, your guru is an ordinary being, and when you reach the path of accumulation, quickly and just at that time, your guru reaches the state of the Supreme Emanation body. Right? And then when you progress even further on the path of seeing, quickly, as if, the guru is rushing to reach the next level of the enjoyment body. It's not like that. The guru is the Buddha from the beginning. It's just that due to your karmic obscurations, you cannot see him as that. You can progressively actually see the different bodies of the Buddha as you remove more and more obscurations. So it says, one day even the universe will appear to us completely pure. So it is like this. By doing specific meditations, you come to the point of recognizing all sentient beings as being deities and the whole environment as being the celestial palace of the deity, the mandala of the deity. At present, we cannot perceive them like that. We see them as ordinary environment and ordinary beings. Later on, we will see them in a completely purified form. So what have we established here? We have established that this advice of the Lamrim that says you must see the Guru as the Buddha is not an advice that says you should pretend he's not really the Buddha, but in your mind you should make him appear like the Buddha. Like you should pretend he's not that, but you're going to pretend that he is the Buddha. This is not the advice that the Lamrim is giving, because if that was the case, that would not be a valid meditation. That would be pretending something which is not, and that will be mistaken awareness. So definitely the Lamrim is not giving the advice that we should cultivate mistaken awareness, a pretense that he's not, we're going to pretend that he is. So we resolve here that when it says you should see him as the Buddha, it means in reality he is the Buddha, and you should recognize that he is the Buddha. So you should see him as the Buddha that he really is. So there is this particular point here that says even if you see a small mistake in the guru, this will actually work in a way that reinforces your faith. So instead of becoming an obstacle or becoming a big drama, actually it should become a favorable condition. Seeing a small mistake in the guru or a mistake in the activity of the guru, that will reinforce rather than shatter your faith. So sometimes we see that the gurus might demonstrate a behavior that is considered to be reproachable or bad behavior or negative behavior. Actually, this behavior is a skillful means of the guru. When the guru assumes an aspect that we can perceive, that aspect has to be the aspect of an ordinary being. Why? Because we are ordinary beings. And we, as ordinary beings, have a lot of faults. And we behave in ways that are reproachable. So our behavior is a faulty behavior. So when the guru makes the effort to assume an aspect that we can perceive, it means it's going to take an aspect of an ordinary being like ourselves that will mix and mingle with us similar to our level. And that means that they have to demonstrate this behavior that actually is considered to be negative or reproachable. If the guru remained in the aspect of the enjoyment body, completely perfect, completely beautiful, we cannot perceive him. If the guru decided to remain at the level of the supreme emanation body, again, unless we were at the level of the path of accumulation, we will not perceive him. So when the guru actually manifests this type of negative behavior, we should think how kind he is, and we should say thank you to the guru for appearing in that ordinary aspect. From our side, we are ordinary. Ordinary means we have many faults. Many people, you look at them, and like at the front, they seem to be nice people. But if you actually examine, if you go a little bit deeper, if you look at them from the back, you will see that they are full of faults and mistakes, and their behavior is a negative behavior. So when the guru comes amongst us at our level, he also has to manifest this type of behavior. So as we say, seeing this type of faults should become a favorable condition that supports and boosts your faith. So the advice is that you should see and you should view the Lama as being really the Buddha. You must do that. This is necessary. And then the next point is actually you are capable. You can do that. So the question is, how can I see him as the Buddha? And he explains here how you do it. He says when you meet the guru at the beginning, you focus on the good qualities. You don't focus and you don't exaggerate the faults. And even if you see some small fault, that small fault actually you recognize it as a skillful mean, and therefore it becomes another way that supports your faith, that boosts your faith. So if you look at him in this way, focusing on the positive, not the fault, you focus on the positive. And if you see a small mistake, also use that to reinforce your faith, then you will be able to see him as the Buddha. So this is how you are to regard him properly as being the Buddha. This is how you do it. So we're talking here about the correct way to view the Guru, and we say we must see the Guru as being really the Buddha. So we're talking about a type of faith, the faith that sees the Guru as being really the Buddha. So there's a very important point here about this faith, this particular type of faith that we explain, and we give reasons, and we explain how to cultivate this. The faith that is requested of us is faith that is supported by reasoning. Having explained the reason why this is the case, then we are gradually, someone is gradually leading us to the point, reaching the conclusion ourselves that yes, indeed, I have to see him as the Buddha because he really is the Buddha. So we cultivate this faith, which is an intelligent type of faith, not blind faith. Blind faith means you don't need any reason. I will not explain anything to you. Just shut your eyes and say, yes, it is. It is like this. And I'm going to believe and I'm going to follow that. This is what is called confused faith. There's nothing is explained and no reason is given. This confused faith is not a stable type of faith. Even if you generate this, like you repeat it many times, my Guru is the Buddha, my Guru is the Buddha. If you don't have the solid foundation of reasoning, even if you manage to generate that blind faith for a day or two, it's not going to last, right? And then by day 3, you will start doubting again, like, what is he again? What did we say he is? So here, we're not having blind faith. We are explaining the reason why it is so, and what does that bring us to. And once you understand this, what is the next reason? What is the next argument? And therefore you establish, you prove to yourself a certain thing, and then you believe it, and then it becomes solid faith. All right. So with the next outline, it says how to regard him properly. So we have said that we must regard the Guru as a Buddha. So how to properly do that? Here we must establish the Guru to be a Buddha using both scripture and logic so that we gain unshakable conviction. Okay, so what we need to do is to generate this conviction. The conviction has to be stable. And when the conviction is stable, we will be unshakable. Unshakable here has the idea that nothing can separate you from this conviction that you have generated. Right, so you have reached a certain conviction, and no one can break up, no one can destroy, no one can take a piece away of this conviction. It means your conviction will remain intact. You will be 100% convinced that this is the case, instead of being, let's say, 80% or 50% convinced, right? So you'll be 100% convinced. So how are you going to reach this unshakable and very stable conviction? You have to prove it to yourself by relying on scripture and logic. Very important here that it stresses logic. Without logic, we cannot achieve that level of faith, of stable faith. All right, so we have to rely both on scriptures. Scriptures will be both from Sutra and Tantra, and on logic. Okay, so in order to establish this unshakable conviction, we're going to go through 4 different subheadings. So this has 4 subheadings. The first one, Vajradhara stated that the Guru is a Buddha. So Vajradhara is the Buddha himself. So the Buddha himself has said that the Guru is a Buddha. So there is a danger that some may think spiritual guides are not really Buddhas, but we must pretend they are during this section of the Lamrim on devotion to a spiritual guide. So some people might think, really, he's not the Buddha. But when I'm doing this meditation on the Lamrim, on Guru devotion, then I have to fabricate this idea or this image that the Guru is actually the Buddha. Although he's not, I'm going to pretend, I'm going to fabricate this idea that he is the Buddha. It says, but the point of this heading is that we should not put wrong concepts such as this into the deepest recess of your minds. So it says the point, and this is an important point of this heading, of this outline, is that you should not, deep into your mind, you should not have such thoughts. It's a misconception, is not how things actually are. So you should think as follows. The Guru is a Buddha, but you do not perceive it. From his side, he is a Buddha. From your side, you cannot actually see it. The reason is that Vajradhara is at present amongst us. So when it says Vajradhara or the Buddha is at present amongst us, what does it mean? He is no other than the teacher, the Guru, who is teaching, giving explanation, giving initiations, and is guiding us. This is what it means. He's amongst us. So he's taking the form of the Guru. Vajra's Royal Tantra says, so we're going to have some quotations from Tantra and then from Sutra, so the Tantric ones. In future times, my physical form will be that of a master. So the Buddha himself says, in the future, I will come and my physical form will be the form of the Guru. Another quotation. Also, in the last 5 centuries, I will take the form of masters. Think that they are me and develop respect for them. So develop respect for the masters, for the Gurus, recognizing that they are me, the Buddha. And also, in future degenerate times, my form shall be that of Charles. So Charles here indicates a small child, right? And through various means, I will show my forms. So it says, in the future, I will come and take different aspects, the aspect of a child, a young person, and different other aspects, right? So these are the quotations from the Tantra, another quotation from the Sutra. One sutra tells us, O Amogadarshi, in future times to come, I will show myself bodily as abbots. I will abide in the form of masters. So he says, I will appear as your abbot, I will appear as your guru, as your master. That is, many sutras and tantras say that in degenerate times, I, Vajradhara myself, will come in the form of ordinary masters. Out of love, he taught, don't despair, saying, I did not meet him, for you will recognize me. So, out of his love and affection, the Buddha himself has given this advice. He has taught this point. He says, in the future, do not despair and think, oh, I was so unfortunate, I never got to meet the Buddha. Don't think like this. I will come, I will take the aspect of the master, and you should recognize me as such. So it says, this literally mean what they say. And you should assume the present time to be the degenerate times. So where it says it literally means what it says, in terms of the meaning of any given statement, we have the definitive meaning and we have the interpretive meaning. The definitive meaning is that it actually literally means what it says. The interpretive meaning is that it says one thing, but you should interpret it as something different. For example, we have the statement in a sutra where the Buddha says, one should kill one's father and one's mother. So that particular statement was given to someone who had actually killed his father and his mother. And he was totally devastated by the guilt of having killed his parents. And the Buddha, in order to put his mind at ease, started by saying, don't worry, actually mother and father, they should both be killed. But here, when he uses the term mother and father, he's not referring to the biological parents. Father and mother here refer to true grasping or different types of afflictions. So you should cut off the afflictions, basically, yeah? So this is the difference between the definitive meaning and the interpretive meaning. Okay, so in that sentence, these literally mean what they say, and you should assume the present time to be these degenerate times. So in the quotations, we had mention of the degenerate times. In the future, in degenerate times, I will come in this aspect. So it's our time he's talking about. So up to here, we have dealt with various quotations, but as it has said, we should rely both on quotation and logical reasoning. So for the remainder of this section, we have logical reasoning. It says, Vajradhara perceives us with his love and knows how pathetic we have become through karma and delusion. So he manifests like this amongst our own gurus. Okay, so what is the case? We are under the influence of our karma and delusions, and we have reached this state, which is described here as a very pathetic stage. Vajradhara, from his side, has full knowledge of that, and also he's full of affection for us. So understanding the state we're in, knowing the state we're in, and due to his affection, now he finds that this is the time that we are most in need of his presence. So this is the time where he will come and manifest amongst our gurus. Then it continues by saying, in our present rebirth, we are capable of knowing how to modify our behavior, meaning we take a little bit of interest in what should be practiced and what should be abandoned. We have a little bit of interest in following the teachings, and in particular in studying the Lamrim. So you see, we're talking here about one particular period of our time, a particular occasion, an occasion in which we have developed a little bit of interest in the teachings and in what the teachers have to teach us. Okay? So in our present rebirth, we are capable of knowing how to modify our behavior, to practice the instructions, and so on. So he knows there is no better time for him to work for our sake. It is at the time that we have developed a little bit of interest. It is at the time where we're capable of knowing what we should do and what we should not do. We have a little bit of receptivity. So when we have that, when we open up to the instructions of the Guru, that is the right time for him to come and manifest as our Guru. So that thing that Geshe has been saying, look at the situation in Singapore. The majority of people do not have the same interest in Dharma as we do. They don't have that interest. We are like a very small group. We are the minority. We are a very small and very fortunate group. And it is right now in this group, right, that we come together as group because we have the same interest. And this is the opportunity. This is the right time for Vajradhara to manifest and come here and appear as one of our gurus, isn't it? So you see that principle that the Buddhas have full knowledge, have full power, have full capacity and so forth, but they will come and teach when the time is right. And for us in Singapore, the time is right. We have that interest right now. So definitely he is amongst us. You should reach that conclusion. Okay. Then it says, further, all our present-day gurus are thus. Okay, so we say he has definitely come amongst our gurus. So let's say you have a few gurus. Let's say you have 5 or 6 gurus. So you say, okay, Vajradhara must be there, one of them. And then you start examining the gurus, and he says, yes, but it cannot be this one because this one has this and this fault. It cannot be that one because that one has that and that fault. And then you go through all the gurus and say, no, can't be this, can't be that, can't be the other. If you go through this process of elimination, you will be left with no Vajradhara at all. So it says, but if you think this is not so, and put forward reasons for each guru not being one of those emanations of Vajradhara, the process of elimination will leave you with no emanation of Vajradhara at all. So again, if you go back into this attitude of recognizing faults, you will eliminate one after the other all the gurus. If you eliminate all of them, you have reached this point where you are basically not accepting, or you're contradicting the quotations that we had before, because the quotations very clearly said, in the future times I will come and take the aspect of the master, I will take the aspect of the guru. This then has the fallacy of contradicting the above quotations. There must be at least one emanation of the Buddha amongst them. So what we're doing here is we're going begin with the scriptures, and then we start applying the reason. And if we make a mistake of the reason, we take it all the way to the point of contradicting the scriptures. And then we say, hold on a minute, the scriptures say that there must be one. So we have to reverse our steps to find where was the mistake that we make in our logical thinking, in the way that we're thinking. And here the mistake is that we start seeing faults and eliminate one guru after the other. Okay. So if you apply only the reasons for their not being Buddhas, you will not find the emanation. So your thinking is at fault. All right. It's not that the quotations are at fault, it's your thinking is at fault because you have reached the wrong conclusion. And you should always go back and check, what do this quotation, what do the scriptures say? Am I contradicting the scriptures? So if I'm contradicting the scriptures, where have I made the mistake? So this is how we rely upon both scripture and logic in order to reach that unshakable conviction. So instead you should feel, all my gurus are nothing but emanations of the Buddha. These quotations should be enough for those persons who find it easy to believe. So as we say, we need to rely both on quotation and on reason. Some people find it very easy to generate faith. And for these people, merely reading these sutras and tantras and these quotations, they are inspired and they generate faith and they are convinced. Okay. However, it will be much more convincing if we now prove it by logic. You might be one of those people who really have faith in the scriptures, but actually your faith, your conviction will become much stronger if you apply reasoning, because the reasoning gives you that logical proof that makes everything very stable. Because just the faith that comes from reading the sutras, it might be generated, but is not enough. And then from this point onwards, from the next outline number 89, the proof that the Guru is the agent of all the Buddhas, good work. So as you see, it's talking about the proof. So it's going to be logic, utilizing logical reasoning. So we have to do like this. We go from the scripture to the logic, from the logic back to the scripture, and they should both work together and support the stability of our conviction. Okay, so we're going to stop here for tonight. We went a little bit over time, so that's okay. Okay, let's have dedication prayers now.